10 o'clock. It's
Hi.
Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour, number 274, I think. Maybe 75. I didn't look at my calendar for that detail. October 16th, 2025. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator as usual. And I will add my contact info on this screen in the recording, so anybody who stumbles into it can join our mailing list if they want to, because this is a free and open forum for woodturners wherever you are in the world, sponsored by Lancaster area woodturners here in Lancaster, PA. How's that for a pitch? Let me see. Club news. I don't have any. Oh, I do have some. I posted the video from my demo last Tuesday, and I got over 300 views now, and some really nice comments, including from some of you guys who are on screen and some who are regular video watchers. So thanks for that. Had a great bunch of people helping get that demo together. The on and off bearers especially. I had a hell of a lot of props that had to go into the audience, and I had guys standing up and sitting down and like pretty much constantly ferrying them back and forth. Let's see. Anybody else on club news? Ziegler, what's next in Lancaster Club?
Tom Wenzel is going to show us how he turns and paints his Christmas trees. Apparently, he's made quite a thing of this. He's turned something like, I don't know if it's 1,000, but whatever it is. So he will go through not only how he turns them, but how he puts his iridescent paint on the trees while they're on the lathe, turning very slowly. So that should be interesting. He was reluctant to do this, and I said, Tom, he goes, it's not that fancy. I said, it doesn't have to be fancy. It
Right.
just has to be something that's interesting, and it will help people who have never done painting on the lathe or iridescent paints or whatever. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's doing.
Hey, John, I was bought some big pine cones to bury in epoxy, and I thought if you bury them right, I wonder if you could turn a really neat Christmas tree. Just an idea,
You probably could.
with the branches at the right spots. Anyways,
Yeah, I'm going to stay with club news for a second, though, because that brings up the point that Lancaster Club needs somebody to take over editing the monthly club videos. Matt Killarescu's been doing it for years, and he's done. He will coach you, or I will coach you, one way or the other. If you're not up to speed on it, all it takes is basic familiarity with simple editing programs like iMovie on the Mac and the equivalent on the PC. So we're looking for somebody to step into that role. It's kind of an opportunity to get kind of good at this, actually, because every meeting, every demo is a challenge, and you can stick with just a single recording, or you can stick with the couple of views, because we got 3 cameras going, and it can be kind of fun.
I have a question for everybody, John. I'm part of the committee for the Mid-Atlantic Woodturners Symposium, and we have a sort of a wrap-up meeting tonight. My question was, the symposium brings people in from around the world for doing demonstrations, and if any of you would be interested in being considered for next year or some year for actually doing a live demonstration for the weekend. Not only would you enjoy coming to Lancaster, the symposium pays for your flight and everything else, and obviously a stipend for the actual turning symposium like you would. So I know there's a few people I would love to see in Lancaster. Well, several of you would be, I think, ideal demonstrators if you'd be willing.
We're looking at you, Kai.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'll see.
Other club news? Nittany Valley, nothing going on?
No, we just have our next meeting on November 5th, I think it is. Yes, Wednesday, November 5th. And we're asking all the club members to donate a piece so that we can go to local makers market and make a little money off of everybody. We're going to try that, see if it could be a little bit of a fundraiser for us. So if we're doing it the first time, I'm worried about pricing because some people might have their feelings hurt because it's an show, it's just a craft fair. So I tried to explain that to everybody, but we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Any other club stuff? I'm going to go to the hands next. I don't know what's in queue. I haven't been in touch with anybody to set anything up. I usually don't, actually. I leave it all to you guys to bring it on. Hello, Bruce. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good, 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 good.
I promised to bring some pieces, and I wanted to continue on Jim's discussion of burls, actually, that we started last week,
Good.
and kind of propose that burls aren't as random as you think they are. And with a little planning, you can get out of burls pretty much whatever you want. So you seeing my project here?
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
All right, I'm going to start in the middle of this discussion and work my way backwards. But in burls, usually there's two features that you're going after. One is what I call the straws or the fibers that feed the burl, and the other are the eyes, similar to if you had a bird's eye maple or something like that. And here you can see in the front of the piece is more of the straws, if you will, and the eyes in the back. Now, sometimes, despite what you want or how you try and set the piece up, you make a mixture of things, and I didn't want to do that. Let's see. So here's from the bottom. You can see I've got most of the eyes oriented there.
Bruce, I don't do much burl work at all. Yeah, look on this slide. Is there any actual, are the wood fibers twisted the way we're seeing there, or is there an underlying structure that actually is has a grain direction?
So the answer is it varies, and burls are fed in different ways. But I was looking for I wanted to show you, this is the other side of the bowl. So even though I had the straws on the one side, I've got the eyes on the other, which is not really what I usually shoot for, is a uniform kind of look to the piece. And I try and put the eyes in the bottom or the middle or where you can see them best. But to answer John's question, here's a couple of burls. These are Australian burls. I think the one on the left is called Biddle box burl, and the one on the right is a red mallee burl. But you can see that they kind of grow in different ways. The one on the right is probably 3 different structures which are growing together and are fed in that way.
Well, any idea which way up these were on the tree?
Yes, if you look at the bottom, at the base here, this is where it was cut off the tree on the bottom. So you're looking at the top of the burls. These are commonly sold as what's called burl caps. And you're looking at the top of the burl here. And what you can see are the little eyes.
I haven't got it.
I'm sorry?
It was a mute. We've got them.
Okay. So the eyes are what's sticking up. All those little structures are sticking up. And the straws.
So how big are these?
So you see the screwdriver and the drill in the background. So the one on the right is probably about 12 or 13 inches around. And the one on the left is a little smaller than that.
How tall?
I believe that the one on the right was about 4 inches tall, whereas most of it's about 2 inches tall.
And what would one of those cost?
It really varies. They're often sold by wet weight. So if you go and you buy these from a store, you'll see them 4 kilos, whatever, but they're selling you the wet weight. So you pick it up and you say, wait a minute, that doesn't weigh 4 kilos. It weighs about 2. But these probably cost in the range of $100, $150, somewhere in that range, a piece.
Okay, and so how many pieces are you going to get out of those?
It depends. So the piece on the right, which is actually the one I'm going to talk about, the red mallee, has a couple of things you can do with it. It's got this big high piece on the back right, which I would cut off and make a flower out of or something separate out of that piece. And the rest could be something else because it's a more uniform height. What I was really interested in this particular piece is the fact that it was pretty uniform when I cut into it, and I did exactly what I said. I cut that piece off of the one on the right here so that it could be used elsewhere. And now I have a more uniform 2-inch or so thick piece with the eyes pointing up where I could get the most view of them. And this piece here, I thought I started to expose the red mallee inside. But what it was obvious to me now is I had a piece that I most likely had a natural edge that goes all the way around it, which is unusual to get into a single piece. So I put this into a mold with the intention of trying to get a natural edge around the entire piece. So here, Jim, here's epoxy. And as I said, I tried to cut off the pieces that were most useful before I put it into the mold. And I also wanted a kind of light color so that I could see through and see this natural edge that I'm going to try and expose as I cut the piece. So here's...
Did you know it was going to be that hot lemon?
Yes. I use a mixture of mica powders and dyes. And it's interesting because the mica powders sometimes concentrate on the edges of a burl, which is not necessarily what I want, but it happens. But yes, I went for that yellow, and I wanted it to be translucent when I cut this thing through. So in the end, this is the piece that you get out of that particular burl, and you can see the natural edge going all the way around, which was my goal here. And you can also see the eyes sticking up in a lot of places, and then the really nice red mallee color in the middle. This one, you don't see too much of the straws, although you see some pretty nice stuff over here on the left side.
So what's your polishing routine with that epoxy once it's fully cured? What do you have to go through to get that matte sort of nice look on it?
So I sand quite extensively and polish. I use this Dr. Kirk's often 1, 2, 3 system that gets you polish. After I get up to about 1,000 grit, I go through the 3 systems there. I might sometimes, if I'm exposing the burl itself, I'll probably put some kind of shellac finish, like a triple E type of finish on it as well. I guess I should mention that this piece is on display right now at the Manor Mill Gallery in Moncton. There is a display of called Not Only Wood, KNOT, and it's on display until I guess the middle of November.
Is it for sale?
It is for sale.
And what's the price?
I priced this one to sell. I priced this at $400.
Oh,
That's to sell?
That's to sell.
And what's
Okay,
the
you
other
gotta-
side look like?
What's that?
What's the other side look like?
The other side, I didn't bring a picture of the other side, but the other side I think is more spectacular, actually. Because sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens.
hi, Dave Hudgel. I do finish like that also. I couldn't sell that for more than 120 at our gallery I'm at. I want to come to your gallery.
Who's that and where are you?
Dave Hudgel in Grand Bend, Ontario.
That would be sad because there's more than $120 worth of materials in that particular piece. But anyway.
Yes, I understand.
This is a piece of maple burl. And here again, Jim, what I was trying to get at was how to orient it to get the most out of it. And to John's usual question, so the bottom here is where it was cut off of the tree. So I'm always worried that when I make something like this, I'm going to get into a spot where you run out of burl. So normally I'm going to use and make my tenon out of this base here and try and see where I get to actually burl. And I'm going to try and make as much use of the eyes and the pieces that stick out of this as I can, and try and get also the straws and the other piece leading up to it if I can. So this, to me, lent itself to making something very bulb-like or a big hollow form, and that was what I shot for with it. And some of you have seen this piece because it was displayed at the Lancaster, the Mid-Atlantic show a couple years ago. I think this was a winner of People's Choice. But anyway, here was the some of the straws on the side, as you can see, and I wanted a fairly flat top here so that I would get the maximum of the eyes on top. which I think it did work out. Now, when you have a burl piece like this, it lends itself very nicely to the Cindy Drozda method of dyeing it with black first. And you'll find that the straws pick up the black very, very well. And then you can sand or cut out the black and then put another color on top of it. And so this wound up being this piece, if this is now bringing back the memory of some have seen it.
Wow, that's a gorgeous piece, that's for sure.
And once you get the final finish, you can see that the top, I was rewarded with making the top kind of flat by getting all those eyes to align up on the top.
Bruce, is there a relationship between straws and eyes? Do straws end in eyes, or what's the
Yes,
difference?
exactly that. Exactly that.
Okay.
Well, is straws and eyes your own nomenclature, or does that come from wood science?
I think I learned that from Cindy, and no, it's not. I don't think there's any science in that at all, but it's the fibers, if you think, or the feeder tubes that actually feed the burl are coming up from the tree. Because realize this is growing on a tree, so you have growing pieces, but they all terminate in those eyes.
Well, I'll bet you that wood technologists have an exact term for that. They don't leave.
I am sure that that is true.
Hey, Bruce, I see that you've got a little bit of I'll call it a rough texture. Let's just say that it follows the texture of the burl's structure there. I did one once, and that seemed to come out after I had turned it. It was smooth when I turned it. Do you find that same thing too?
I think it depends on the burl itself and the origin of it. Some of them really tend to have all kinds of defects in it. And sometimes you make yourself crazy thinking you're leaving tool marks or whatever, but you're really not. It's just voids that are all through that burl. I tend to avoid, I think something that Jim turns is the cherry burls we get around here have such massive bark inclusions that I find it incredibly hard to even turn those. But the maples I've had much better luck with. But you're right. Sometimes you think you have it smooth, and even when you're sanding it, you get all these little spots. I'm going to show you a piece like that actually towards the end.
Is there not some moisture exchange going on there as well? I mean, you're never going to get that thing to dry sitting on your shelf before you turn it, are you?
No, but often you can get some of these I mean, I tend to leave them on my shelf for a year or more when I get them. And when you've got them, they have the original wet weight usually written on them. So you can have a feel for how much they've dried out by the time you get them if you bought them that way.
I would still bet that when you cut into that surface and sand it, that there's some moisture exchange, and those tissues are so scrambled that could lead to that kind of pebbling of the surface.
I've never found these to be really wet.
No, I don't mean very wet. I mean a very small, 10-15% change from, say, 25% to 15% or 20% to 15% moisture.
Yeah, I would guess that most of these are less than 15% when I get them, and I leave them for quite a while. So,
John,
yeah.
Can I just Bruce? When I've done that with what John is describing, I've actually found that if you do a really smooth finish, that you don't get sharp undulations. In fact, if you get anything, you get a very light undulation, which is very, very pleasant to the touch, and it just adds to the curiosity of the vessel as opposed to detracting from it.
Yeah, it depends, I find, on the burl a lot. The other thing is sometimes you get the top or the edge is a different color, and I usually try and exploit that if I can to be the edge of a product. So if I'm dealing with a flower like this one, I'll try and get that natural edge. You can see some of the spikes up at the top here. I think this was a red. This might be the piece that I took off of that other one. I'm not sure. But often you'll get something like this where you can exploit that natural edge in a way that you intend to, that it's not just a random thing.
So is burl turning mostly what you do?
No.
Huh.
No, but I like to make hollow forms out of burls if I can get them, and I have been doing a lot of that. So a lot of you saw this piece at the Lancaster show, although you probably don't recognize it from the starting piece of wood. But this is a maple burl that I had, and I was concerned about a couple things when I got it. And one is that it has this huge void down here. And second was the top natural edge had a real slope to it, and I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with this. And this is maple burl, and you can see the straws, if you will, coming along the sides very nicely. And this in the center here is not a defect. I hand carved that out there so I could get a center onto the piece is all you're really looking at. But I thought if I could make a vase out of this where I could exploit the view of this whole natural edge and again have kind of a flat surface at the top, I would make the most use of the burl as I could. And so that turned into this piece, which many of you saw in Lancaster. And if you look at it carefully, this piece here is that natural edge you're seeing over here.
Oh,
and that defect here translates to the holes that are in the bottom here.
Scale on that, please. How big is that?
That was about 10 inches tall.
And was the burl about 10 inches as well, or did we lose some at the bottom?
We lost some. The burl was probably a good 13 inches or so. We lost some at the bottom. See if you see where this is. There was those. You can kind of see I lost an inch or two from the bottom here. But here I did get the straws this way, and I've used the natural edge this way. So
well, how did you decide what shape to make that? Did you do that like just on the spot as you dug into it, or did you?
Now looking at this square, I kind of decided that was the shape I wanted. I wanted something flat at the top. I wanted the shape on the sides to have some curve and to make use of the natural edge, and it kind of came out this way.
Hey, Bruce. Oh, go ahead, John.
How far into that are you hollowing?
Oh, this is really hollow. In fact, this goes all the way. The two defects go all the way through.
I mean, down from the neck, how far are you going? Is it like fully hollow? Is this
It's fully hollow. Yeah, you can. This is hollow. This goes right all the way through, and this goes all the way through. It's probably hollow down to about here.
What hollowing system did you use, Bruce?
I'm an addict of the Trent Bosch hollowing system. And this is, I used probably a 3/4 inch bar, and it's probably hollowed about 9 inches deep.
That's interesting because some folks at Lancaster have told me that they found Trent Bosch not to be stable past like 7 or 8 inches. So that's good to know.
He sells, I think, 3 different bar sizes. So you want to go with thicker bars, obviously.
Right.
And I didn't have too many problems with it. He's made a comment that I think is really good. I do tend to use his carbide cutters, but often when you're hollowing out a piece with those carbide cutters, they tend to take off nice shavings and clog your piece. So you do have to be careful that you empty the piece fairly frequently. And of course, once I got down to the holes, it was pretty easy to empty the piece because the shavings would come out the sides as well as the top.
How do you empty the piece? Do you blow air at it or pick at it with something or what?
Yeah, I use a compressor.
Hey, by the way, speaking of Trent Bosch's, and Cindy Drozd is having a IRD, I guess you call it, a demo available online on Saturday for a couple hours, and she's going to use Trent's stabilizer, and she's using burls. So it's a double whammy. I think I'm going to attend it because I think I'm going to learn a lot from her. So.
Well, I've learned from the two of them quite a bit. And actually, we have Cindy is going to do our IRD in our club next month, second Wednesday. So join the club and come see her whole burl discussion next month.
So this piece now, did you dye that as well?
That is completely natural. That's got probably 5 or 6 coats of water locks on it. And the color on the top is what just translates to the color that was in the burl itself. If you look at this as the untouched, that's probably got wax on the end, but otherwise it's the natural burl. It's the same color.
It looks rather dark for maple for me. Does that mean is it a Norway maple? Just out of curiosity, do you know?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because I know Norway maple, first of all, it gives you lots and lots of burls, and also is slightly darker. And the other part is it's an invasive species, so everybody wants you to cut down their Norway maples.
Don't know.
Is there a difference between a root burl and a tree burl?
As far as the physiology, I guess, or if that's the right word for trees, I don't know. clearly the Australian burls, they like to keep cutting them off and get multi-harvests of the same burl, of the same tree. But a root burl is a one and done. So I don't know. I would guess being close to the roots is probably works the same way, but the feeder may be different. It may be organized differently, I would suppose, but I don't know.
Bruce, before we get on much further, I have a question. You referred to, you preferred not having bark inclusions in your burls. I'm the opposite. I want them in, but what my question was, what is there certain woods that are more likely to have burl? Did you refer to cherry as having more likely having bark inclusions? Is there other woods?
So it's a question of amount. I don't dislike bark inclusions. I think they do add a lot of nice things to the pieces. But our local cherry burls, when I've tried to turn them, I often get half the piece inside is a bark inclusion, making it either I start with a great big piece and wind up with a little tiny nothing, or I just have nothing that I can really turn well. But I found that our cherry burls were particularly prone to that. But it may be something that's local or just the ones I've encountered. I don't know. But I have heard other people say the same thing. I've not found the same issue with some of the maple burls I turn. But I think it does vary. And if you can get them in the right spot and put a hole in the piece, I think that's fine. I like that actually, but like the one I just showed you. But I think that other times it just makes it so problematic you can't really turn it. And you worry that it's just going to come apart on you, which more likely than not it may.
We have a lot of cherry burl here in central Pennsylvania around State College. And there is a lot of bark inclusion and there's a lot of ants.
Yeah, that's true. So what are we looking at here, Bruce?
This is a piece of Coolabah burl with a natural edge at the top. And Coolabah is one of those burls that has all kinds of texture and holes and such through it, as we were talking about, or I guess was asked about before. And no matter how hard you sand it, it's still going to have that. And I think it also must have had something in it that kind of like to turn my tools black, in some kind of resin that comes out of it. I don't know if those have turned Florida mahogany. That will always turn your tools a different color if you don't remove the stuff that comes out of that. But, and again, in this case, I wanted the natural edge at the top, but in this case, we also had all the eyes at the top. And again, so a flat spot at the top seemed to me to make sense. This was, I believe this is about a 4-inch in diameter, 4-inch square piece, and similar 9-10 inches kind of in length. So it gave me something to play with. But this Coolabah is also kind of like a rock, so you have to be a little careful trying to cut it. But
so this is a regular tail center you're putting in there, right?
Yeah, until I cut a tenon into the bottom, and then I'll put it into a great big chuck.
Yeah. Because you know you're going to hollow it out anyway, so it's okay to muck up the burls in the center there.
Well, often you want to put it between two centers if you can. If you have a uniform piece, put a tenon on both sides and turn the side that you like. You know, in the end, you can come up with that. But here, where I definitely want this piece at the top, I don't really have that option of doing that. But very often, if I have a piece of burl that looks uniform, I will put a tenon on both sides and take a good look at both ends of it and see which end really makes sense to turn it that way. So I came up with this sort of vase, and I chose to have kind of the sapwood or the edge to really come at about this point was really what I was shooting for, and then hollowing it quite thin. I think I went to a little under 1/4 of an inch to hollow this piece out, and I'm pretty happy with this one. That came out like this, and left me with the edge kind of as I wanted, and the look and the eye on top. And then you have a lot of the other pieces on the side. And then from another view, you can kind of see it that way.
Is that dyed or is that the color of the wood?
That is the color of the wood. There is absolutely no dye whatsoever. But you can also see the kind of punky, I guess you almost have to blow it up a little more. I don't know how to do that on the screen, John.
Maybe I can from here. Hang on a second.
But if you look at those parts here, you'll see that there's a lot of imperfections and such on it, even though it was sanded quite fine.
Can you see that? Does that show up large at your end?
No.
No.
It'll show up large in my recording, that's all.
Bruce, do you use visualizer from Trent too, or are you just doing it freehand?
So for years, I used his laser system, and then I finally recently broke down and bought the visualizer. And this one was turned that way, and I was kind of proud of myself to get it to under a quarter of an inch with that.
That's why I asked, because if you did that freehand, man, my hats and my pants and everything are off to you.
Bruce, do you find when you turn like that thin on a piece like that, does it stay put once you take it off the lathe and you're done, or does the surface and the shape still move around a little bit?
All these where I'm turning what are really, I do believe them to be quite dry burls. They stay where they are. I haven't seen them move. And that's all I have.
Great show. Any more questions for Bruce?
Yeah, before you go, Bruce, have you ever done anything? I like the outside of a burl sometime. I've tried to do it so that you actually leave the nubs on the outside of the bowl and just hollow it. But that then presents a problem with mounting the burl on the bottom because you've got all these nubs sticking out. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I haven't. I guess if you're really brave, I guess you try and make those kind of feet if you could, but I've not tried to do that. And very often they're kind of fragile. So I'm not sure that would make sense to actually stand on it or whatever, but I've not tried to leave those on something like that.
Hey, Doug, I saw a design where somebody did that, it was sort of what you're talking about, but they had a convex outside and they did it as an ice cream cone, and that was the ice cream on top of the cone.
Absolutely. I've done a few of those, and I've just, and oftentimes one of the things I've done is use hot glue on the bottom because the hot glue will come off the points and it'll go down between the points of the burl quite nicely. But anyway, I like the idea of using the outside of the burl for the outside of the bowl because that gives you a completely different visual appearance when you turn the bowl over.
Is it safe to say that if you're turning burls, they're pretty much going to be what they are when you take them off the lathe? They're not like other wood that moves around. Is that a generally good statement?
Not if they're green.
Yes, I was just going to say,
They're green. If you have burl on part of it and non-burl on the other part, you're going to find the burl is going to collapse greatly and really distort, which you can work that into your design of your piece. But if you don't know it's coming, for example, if you made a chalice and you got burl on most of it, but non-burl on part of it, you're going to get a really misshapen vessel.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to shrink quite a bit, Jim, and at least with a log is going to shrink different tangentially in the two dimensions, whereas a burl may shrink all kinds of different ways.
So when you get those and they're sold to you as dry, have they been air dried for a long time, or they've been through a kiln, or what did happen to them since they came off the tree?
It varies on the source. You can buy kiln dried burls from some places. Most of it is air dried and imported from other places, but usually they're specific and will say right on them what they are. But it's tough to figure out exactly how much water is in it other than just weighing them, and that's something I often do, and I try not to use them for quite some time after I get them.
If they're green, it's going to be years for them to dry, right? I mean, I can't imagine something that big and they're kind of coated all around. And
you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
The only thing in your favor is often they're not that thick. Often you're getting 2-inch, 3-inch burl, but if you're getting 4, 6-inch burls and bigger, then you have much, much more of an issue with time.
I can't imagine how long it's in a kiln if you kiln dry a big burl. So.
Well, they have kiln schedules. They know how to do it, but
Yeah.
But I noticed with the exotic blanks that I buy from Groff and Groff and others, because I'm after the figure and color in my little boxes, I'm working on wood I bought 2 years ago. It just has to sit around for a while, and get the wax on, either leave the wax on it or get it off it or whatever. But it just has to sit a while. Anybody else on this? Well, thank you very much, Bruce. That was a great show.
Thank you.
Ziegler?
Well, after Bruce's education, this is pretty simple.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, Bruce, by the way. Thank you. So I haven't been turned a whole lot, but I did have some fun with a little piece of Osage orange that had a stubborn knot or branch in it. But after several black CA things, I managed to get it turned, and I
hold still on the profile so we can see yeah, because you're really good at those little curves. You're very, very subtle about the shape, the actual little shapes you get.
Well,
really nice.
I love the grain on these.
Yeah.
It's very beautiful. So I also recently got a vacuum chuck, and as I was put this on the vacuum chuck and gingerly turned the bottom down, I had a tailstock up to it, but to take the last bit off as I'm turning it, I noticed that the sound of the vacuum chuck was changing, and I looked at the pressure and it went from 25 down to 20. Turns out this little tiny hole, it's not where a live center was, it's where there was a little tiny hole. So then I got some lily put and I covered that up with it. And then the next, 4 hours later, I managed to turn the bottom off nicely, and I'm loving this vacuum chuck. So anyhow.
John, can you hold that up with one hand so we can really see the side? That's it. Sorry, there you go, back and front. That's better. Thank you very much.
Hey, Can I see the knot from the outside?
Oh, the outside.
You said you filled it with epoxy. Why not use milliput? If it's larger, milliput works a heck of a lot better. So.
You're right, Jim. To be honest with you, I just put some black CA in, but because I kept turning it down and the CA had not gone all the way into it because it's semi-thick, medium thick CA. So I got it to the point where I said, well, I'm not going to put any more stuff in there, and so that's actually a void for the most part. It's not smooth. The inside was a bit of a different story. Let me do this. Let me I can't get the light on it, but that was smoother on the inside, but the stubborn little hole in the center was what cracked me up, because that was an issue, and I was like, geez, this little piece doesn't want to get done.
That suspiciously looks at the center like you poked through with your tailstock.
Well, I know it does, but the fact is that's off center.
Yeah, I noticed that. I wasn't going to mention it.
that's off center, and that looks like it's right in the center. So it was weird, but anyhow. So it was fun. It was stupid, but anyhow, that was it.
Nice piece.
Thanks.
Yeah, good to see you back in the shop after a whole lot of landscaping. Bert.
Yeah, okay. A friend of ours moved to Mexico, and he got rid of a bunch of his materials, and a lot of them required just putting a cabochon on different things. So this is a pill case, and I had to put a cabochon on the end of it. And he also had these letter openers, and they put a little cabochon disc on the end of the letter opener. And what I found is I gave these to a quilter, and she said this is the perfect tool for point turning corners. It's the right handle, the right size. It's not sharp. It's smooth. So instead of a letter opener, now I'm going to make a bunch of these and give them to the quilters for a Christmas gift for turning their points. And there's also a bunch of these little pin things that were whatever, just a disc, and I put a little cabochon on them. And in order to make these little discs, it was interesting. These are about 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters thick, and 25 millimeters in diameter for this one. And this, I think, is 38 millimeters in diameter, and 1 millimeter to 2 millimeters thick. And my challenge was, how the hell do you make something that small? So to make the small ones, I ended up using the #1 jaws on a Talon chuck, and I put this in the center of the Talon chuck, so that when I put this piece of wood in the chuck, it only grab about 1/8 of an inch of the workpiece, so it would stick out, and I could make 2 cabochons out of that. But once you turn the outside edge nice and smooth and decorated or however, and then part it off, then how do you fix the back end of the cabochon? So what I ended up doing was I took a piece of wood and put it in a chuck, and I cut it the same diameter as the piece of wood I started with. And then I put a groove in the outside edge about 1 millimeter in from the end. And then I took it to the bandsaw and cut it. And then I took it to a sander and sanded it so that the radius of this circle matches the radius of the cabochon, and this little edge will fit in that little groove. And because I've taken some wood away from this jam chuck, I mount this in my a larger chuck, and I can put the cabochon in there, squeeze it, and take the little tip off the back end, and it's perfect.
So you've got a combination of a jam chuck and a collet chuck there.
That's exactly right. So the first was how to get a real small cabochon off the lathe. So I used this inside the chuck to space the piece of wood out so that I could actually take a small piece off the edge. And then once I had the small piece, I needed a jam chuck. And I didn't want to have to make a jam chuck for each different size. So I made this one, and the little groove is just enough to hold it. It doesn't take much to hold it. So that's for the small ones. But for the bigger ones, I had to do the same thing. I made a disc like this. It's about
Bert, you're falling out of your camera. Come on to the middle of your frame.
Okay, so there's about 7 or 8 millimeters thick, and I put that inside the chuck, and then I'll put the piece of wood, whatever I'm going to use, inside the chuck on here, so that it's sticking out far enough. I can cut a small cabochon for the pillbox. But then again, I had to figure out how do I clean up the back of the cabochon, and I didn't want to put double stick tape on everything because that would work, but it would be fiddly and it would take a long time. So what I did was I took a piece of PVC pipe, and before I cut it, I put it in the chuck and I cut a groove, so the groove is a perfect circle. I don't know if you can see the little groove in there.
Yeah.
And then I took it to the bandsaw and I cut a big chunk out of it, so that when you put the cabochon in, it'll grab just the edge and lets you see the back of the cabochon, so you can take the little nib off the bottom. So it was a interesting process to try and figure out how to put these small little pieces of wood on these decorative pieces. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but other than these ones here, I'm going to give to the quilters. But one of the ladies said that she goes to a church group and they do bingo, and they have silly little prizes. And so I thought, well, I gave her a whole bunch of these pillboxes because all of the people that she's dealing with are they're older, so most of them could, if they win one of these little pillboxes, hopefully they'll be happy.
Hey, Bert, what did you use to secure the cabochons to the metal?
Double stick tape, Turner's tape. So when I put a disc of Turner's tape on the metal, and then I put the cabochon on, and then I take a squeeze clamp and I clamp it, and I leave it clamped for 5 or 6 minutes or whatever. Just set them on the, as I'm doing a bunch, I clamp them all, And I think Stu can attest to how good that sticks because he had to take a couple off
back,
for me on.
you're out of your frame again. Bring your hands close into back into frame. Yeah,
Okay.
you're there.
Yeah. So I put the cabochon on the double stick tape, and then I clamp it. So it's pressure sensitive tape. So it's Turner's tape. It's not carpet tape, and it's not just double stick tape.
Yeah.
It's Turner's tape. So it's pressure sensitive. If you don't put pressure on it, it doesn't stick very good. But you put pressure on it for 3 or 4 minutes, and it sticks like shit to a wool blanket.
Hey, yeah, and if you leave, I use CNC tape, which I think is the same thing. And I took up Mike's suggestion that you need to leave pressure on it. Well, I left pressure on, I had left one pressure on all night. I almost couldn't get it off of the waste block.
No, you can't. It's really good. That's what you have to do with that stuff.
Right.
Do you know where those pillboxes come from? Those look like they're not medium quality, even good quality.
I'm not sure where they're made. I think they came from China, but they are fairly good quality. And like I say, when Brian was deciding to move to Mexico, he had all this extra stuff. He used to be a professional turner and would sell these at markets, and he had boxes and boxes and boxes of this stuff. So he just donated it to the club. I grabbed a couple of boxes and started playing with it. But the interesting part was making the cabochons, right? That's just I had to have some way to play with wood. So it was an interesting process. I think there's a video in the works on that too, because it was kind of cute to have to think up all of these different little jigs to do it. They didn't happen the first time. The first time took me probably 2 hours to make one cabochon. Now I can make them in about 3 or 4 minutes each.
Very nicely done. I've wrestled with this problem myself. It's not an easy problem, and you've solved it quite beautifully and effectively.
Bert,
Yeah.
What versus just double-sided tape to a waste block?
Yes, if I was going to do that, I did that once, and then the problem is you got a real nice finish, and it's on double-sided tape, and you got to pressure it on, and then you got to get it off without marking the, if you try and pry off a little thin piece of wood off of double stick tape, and it's only a millimeter thick, it would probably break, and it takes time. While doing it with a little jam chuck, the compressible jam chuck was like, you take the back off in like 10 seconds. So it was just some way to make it easy. It keeps the gray matter going too.
Got it.
Bert, how do you keep track of your jigs? You have to have a room full of them. Is there any way you have them organized? I make a jig and then I throw it in a bin near the lathe. And then a year later, I'm making another jig, the same one. And I go, wait a minute, I made one. How do you keep track of yours? You're a jig maker.
Well, the ones that I use, I write on them when I make them, because I did have several jigs that were sitting on the shelf, and when I took them off, I couldn't figure out what the heck I was doing with it. So, so now when I make a jig, I'll write on it. But these small ones, I keep these together. So this is the piece that goes in the chuck to space the work out far enough. And this is the piece that's going to hold the cabochon. So when I put these in my shelf, I put them together. So when I find one, I make a lot of these for a lot of different kinds of things. This one here has a little groove in it. And so these go together. So when I'm making 50 millimeter cabochons, I use this one. When I'm doing 38 millimeter cabochons, I use this one. And then when I'm doing 25 millimeter cabochons, I use this piece to offset the chuck, and this piece here to hold the cabochon for the back. And an interesting thing I learned is that this thing here has got an elastic band around it, but every time I try and put a cabochon in, it would fall apart, and it was real finicky, and it kind of frustrated me. So I tried to figure out, how can I put a hinge on it? Well, I didn't use duct tape, because Red Green would use duct tape, but I had masking tape. And you know what? It works really, really, really good as a hinge. So now I can open this up, put the piece in, and close it. It doesn't fall apart. And there's a rubber band around here to give it a little bit of
just enough,
like a hinge. Yeah. So all of these little tips and tricks, I didn't learn them the first time. It took me quite a while to come up with it. But I thought, well, hey, that's something that other people might be interested in too.
That's great stuff, Bert.
Bert, what's that word you're using? I hadn't heard it before. Cabochon? What is that?
Cabochon is a small round disc.
Yeah, this you see them in the ends of appliance tools, and nice tool like hairbrushes and things, and yeah.
There's a wood turner from Australia. I can't remember his name right now, but he does a lot of boxes, lidded boxes that are on funny angles and different shapes. And one of his signature things is putting cabochons in and then turning them on the angle, so they give you almost like an oval disc in a workpiece. And that's where I first started making use of cabochons. So I don't throw anything away anymore. Like I'm saving pieces of wood that are less than an inch big because they're pretty wood, and you can make a cabochon and insert it in something else. So,
hey, spell that word?
Cabochon.
Cabochon.
Yeah.
Cabochon.
There's a U in there, I think. But anyway, hey, I'm going to
No, it's cabochon. I just looked it up because I had the same issue. I was like, how the hell do you spell it? I could say it, but I couldn't spell it. But
I'm going to move us along because I see Gary Mayhew put his hand up. We haven't heard from Gary in a long time. And I saw some pretty terrific work from him at the Mid-Atlantic. So thanks very much, Bert. And good morning, Gary.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
So I turned this goblet.
You had that at the Mid-Atlantic, right?
I did. I had
was terrific, yeah.
And it's the first, and I tried to, start bending it. And this is what I came up with. And you find out that once you bend something like this, it doesn't stand anymore. Trying to get it in. Can you guys see that?
You have to bring it closer to your body.
Oh, okay.
And then lift it up. There you go. Now we can see it.
There we go. And so what I did is I wind up just making a base for it. I made this out of a 2x6, just cut at 5.5 square. I got the idea from Rudy Lopez, and it worked out pretty well.
What was the species of the 2x6? Do you know? Was it Doug fir?
Doug fir, and the goblet is maple with the captive ring. And
at what point in the process did you turn the ring?
After I turn the cup part, then I turn the ring somewhere down in here.
Okay.
Yeah. But the way I bent it is you take a card scraper and kind of flatten it out. I don't know if you can tell by the pictures, this is kind of flattened out.
Yeah.
I think I turned this one to around 1/4 inch or so, and then flattened it, and then bent it on like a 2-inch pipe that I heat with a torch.
Well, that's what guitar makers do to make the sides of guitars. So hot pipe bend.
Exactly.
So basically, you're steaming it on the pipe.
Right. Right.
Nice.
So you can put a weight somewhere in here. Like I've seen people put like a big nail in it or something like that, but it takes quite a bit of weight. You'd be surprised. Like when I first did it, I was gonna glue a heavy, I don't know, 2.5-inch washer to the base of this thing, and that was nowhere near enough.
Yeah, you're way overhang there. You got a long lever arm.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So,
hey, how wet was the stem whenever you started to bend it? Was it really wet or was it dry?
This piece of wood was fairly dry, but you wet it before you bend it. You wet it. I keep wetting it and going easy. Just taking your time, bending it and getting the bends the way you want it.
Do you soak it or do you spray it, or how do you do that?
I just put wet sponge. I have a glass of water and a wet sponge, and I just keep it wet.
And then you steam it on the hot pipe, and it's kind of to that water where you put on the stem where you want to bend. That kind of comes off as steam as it bends.
You don't see a lot of steam. Yeah, it does steam, but you don't see a lot. It's more heat, and you're just keeping the wood wet. I guess keeping the fibers wet so they bend.
Okay.
You just got to be careful doing it. If you hear a crack, you went a little too far.
Oh, well, okay. How many did you make before you got that one?
Just one.
Okay.
Made one other one. Yeah.
Very nice stuff. Now you had some other terrific stuff at the Mid-Atlantic. You got that there with you right now?
I do. If you want to give me a second, I can grab it.
Before you leave that, can I ask a quick question? Have you ever tried using like a steam kettler to steam your wood as opposed to just moistening it with water?
I haven't. I actually saw this at one of the symposiums. I don't remember if it might have been Saratoga. Or did somebody do this in Mid-Atlantic?
I saw it. I've seen it before, but there's a guy who on the demo circuit who does that. I don't remember his name though.
Yeah, yeah. It might have been. Was it in Pennsylvania though, or was it? Do you remember?
I thought Saratoga, but maybe.
Yeah, I think I probably saw it in Saratoga a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I finally got around to doing one, but they're pretty cool. They're different,
Hey, Gary, so have you ever thought about, instead of doing two bends and offset, do just a complete circle like a garlic scape?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could play around with. You got to get long though. The longer you make them, the more options you have. This one,
Okay.
This one started out at about 13 inches.
Did you pay attention closely to the grain when you picked a piece of wood, making sure you had a good straight grain, or is it, how important was it?
Yeah, this is I believe it's sugar maple, and the grain was pretty straight on this piece.
Yeah, that would be certainly an advantage, real straight piece. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Stupid question. How do you get the wire up to the light?
Say it again.
How do you get the wire up to the light?
The wire.
He's imagining it's a lamp.
That's what I was imagining it. You got to bore your wood first, put the wire in, then bend it.
Exactly.
I don't want to rush you through with those.
Or use a wireless.
I don't want to rush you through with those other pieces. Those are stacked ring pieces and with inlays. Those are really nice, I thought.
Thank you. I mean, I could grab it if you have a minute.
Yeah, we have a minute. Yeah.
All right, I'll grab it.
In the old days, when they bent things, they writhed the piece so you got nice straight grain.
Yeah, that would be the way to go for sure.
I saw a demo last year at the Mid-Atlantic Symposium. They were using bendy wood. Did anybody know about bendy wood?
It's cold pressed hardwood. There's a place that manufactures it. It's very expensive.
Come on back here now. Look at what Gary's got.
Holy cow.
So that's the piece I brought to Lancaster last month. I did this quite a while ago. When I first started turning, I got into segmented, and I haven't done segmented in years, but this is one I did probably about 10 years ago.
That's a beautiful piece.
Thank you. This here is stave, this part, stave construction, and the rest is regular segmented.
Now,
Can you rotate it?
I wasn't allowed to actually touch pieces all around at the instant gallery. How is the surface of that held up, like for wood movement and glue lines?
It's well. I mean, I haven't had any problems.
Can you, like when you run your hand over it, can you feel the glue line?
Not really. No.
Oh, great stuff.
Held up pretty well. But I keep it in a dry, fairly dark area all the time. It's probably never sees sunlight.
Why is that?
I guess for that reason, I want to keep it.
What do you think, the colors will change if it gets a lot of sunlight?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, they stayed pretty well the way it is, though. I keep it down in a display case in my basement, but it's a finished basement.
Why wouldn't you have that in the center of your living room?
I could. I have it, but it's a bright, a lot of sun in my living room too. So I don't know if it would.
Yeah. And so you think
it would get brown and
Yeah, the colors would not be as intense after
right
light. Yeah.
Right.
So what glue did you use? Do you remember?
Yeah, I always use Type Bond 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a mind blower of a piece.
Thank you.
It's just I can't imagine doing it.
Yeah, it took a little time.
It would take a little time. Yeah. And what kind of lathe are you doing that on?
This one I did on my one-way. I had a one-way at the time.
What do you have now then?
Now I have the Robust.
Which one?
American Beauty. Yeah.
Which do you like? Do you like it better than the one-way?
I like it better, but I like the one-way for coring, I think, better. They both have their different things to them, Yeah. But I have no problems with the American Beauty. It pretty much does everything.
Since we got you here for one more minute, you can put it down. But listen, I just wanted to ask you, how long have you been turning? I mean, you've been a member. Gary lives on Long Island, and he's a member of the club mostly, I think, because of Coffee Hour.
I think I started turning around 2012. So probably like 13 years. But like I said, I started, I've always done woodworking my whole life, but I started doing turning. When I started doing turning, I got into segmented because it fascinated me. And I started turning these kind of things, you know, much more basic than that, and just kept going on and on with it. And I don't know, for the past probably 8 or 9 years, I really haven't done any segmented. I got more into the other, you know, instant gratification stuff. You know, these are like months, you know.
Yeah.
How much time you could put into it.
Are you retired?
Semi-retired.
What did you do for a living?
Real estate broker.
All right. Well, all y'all, it's been a really fascinating coffee hour. Thank you very much, Gary.
You're welcome.
Always good to see you. Bowman, we're going to leave you hanging and give you the first shot next week. You know that. You're always here.
I'll have another companion piece, the one I was going to show anyways next week, so that works out fine.
Oh, yeah, okay, all good. Thank you, thank you all, y'all. Let me see if I can get back to a gallery view here. Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care,
John.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Wonderful patience.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Have a great
Wonderful
week,
patience.
everybody. Thank you.
Great coffee hour. Thank you.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.